Some encounters are not random, they are orchestrated by an invisible order. Among millions of people, you meet them, the one who makes every cell in your body believe this is destiny. They enter your life with the confidence of a soul that has waited for you across lifetimes. They see you, call your name, and make you feel as though the universe has finally answered your silent prayers. And in that moment, you open your heart, completely unaware that the very door you open will become the threshold of the greatest lesson of your life. At first, they arrive like a miracle. You believe this is the love you've waited for all your life. They look at you as if they truly see you. They listen, they care. They mirror every small thing you once hid in your heart. Everything feels perfect, so perfect that you never suspect anything. They say the words you always longed to hear, touch the wounds you thought no one could understand. You believe the universe sent them to heal you, but in truth they came to possess your light. They do not love you, they love how you make them feel. Powerful, alive, and significant. To them you are not a person. You are a source of energy, a mirror reflecting the image they want to believe is real. In the beginning, their love is intense. They promise a future, paint shared dreams. You mistake it for rare harmony, but in reality, it is strategy. They study you, how to make you laugh, how to make you melt, and most importantly, how to make you depend on them. Every sweet word is a calculated move. Every romantic gesture is a test for your reaction. They want you to believe they are the only one who truly understands you. And once you believe completely, they switch roles. Warmth disappears. The eyes that once looked at you tenderly now turn cold. The sweet messages become silence. They begin to make you doubt yourself. Maybe you are too sensitive, too demanding, too insecure. But the truth is, the game has begun. You are being manipulated with your own emotions. They awaken your thirst for love, then withdraw so you crave them more. Every time you react, cry, explain, get angry, they win. Because your reaction is the fuel that makes them feel alive. They don't need love, they need power. They don't seek connection, they seek control. And you, in your goodness, do not realize that you are feeding an endless void. Then one day, the universe places before you the mirror of truth. You look and you awaken. You realize they never loved you. They only loved being seen through your eyes. And when you withdraw that gaze, everything begins to crumble. Because in the sacred order of souls, no one can steal light without paying the price. When you fall silent, when you walk away, they think they have won. But the universe is never silent. Everything they did to you, the universe will teach them back precisely, elegantly, and without mercy. Because betraying a super empath is not just betraying a person, it is betraying one's final chance at redemption. And someday they will understand on the day karma returns and knocks gently on their door, yet leaves them with no escape. Chapter 1. The Sacred Contract Broken. You once believed that every soul meets for a reason, that love, no matter how painful, always carries a purpose. When you met them, it felt as though you were fulfilling something already written, a silent, invisible contract between two souls. You were the healer, they were the wounded. You carried light, they carried shadow, and you believed that through love you could calm the storm within them. But that is the tragedy of the empath. You see the wound, yet not the fortress around it. You believe in the goodness within them, even when that goodness is nothing more than a faint residue buried beneath the disguise of an inflated ego. You give them honesty, patience, compassion, and even your life force, but instead of gratitude, they take it as entitlement. To them, love is not connection. It is a power contract. And you, in the innocence of your soul, signed that contract with your heart. The love of an empath is never shallow. It does not arise from desire, but from the deep awareness that the other soul is in pain. You don't love them because they are perfect. You love them because you see the frightened child inside them, the one who has never been truly loved. But the narcissist does not want to be healed. They fear your light because it exposes everything they have tried to hide. They cannot stand being truly seen, so they attack the one who has seen through them. They deny, devalue, reverse blame, And when they can no longer control, they betray. To them, betrayal is not wrong, it is a declaration of power. Yet in that very moment of betrayal, the soul contract is torn apart. And what they don't realize is this: when that contract breaks, the energy of the universe begins to turn. They think they have escaped you, but in truth, they have severed themselves from the only light that ever kept their inner darkness at bay. The light they once fed on to sustain their illusion of power now returns to you. And for the first time, they are left face to face with the emptiness they have run from all their lives. Carl Jung once said, "When you refuse to confront your own darkness, it will consume you from within." That is exactly what happens. When the empath withdraws, the darkness has nowhere left to hide. It floods the mind of the betrayer. The illusions they use to deceive others begin to collapse. The inflated ego begins to crack. They lose their fuel, your reaction, your empathy, and with that, their entire system of illusion falls apart piece by piece. Meanwhile, you, though wounded, are being reborn. For when light withdraws from the darkness, it does not vanish. It refines itself. You hurt, but you awaken. You lose, but you illuminate. You no longer chase to understand, to prove, or to be validated. Because now you know not everyone deserves access to your energy. You realize that kindness without boundaries is not love, it is self-destruction. As for them, the one who thought they had won, they begin to collapse from within. Not because of anything you've done, but because the universe begins to teach them the one lesson they have avoided all their lives, to consequence. You don't need revenge. You don't need cruel words. Your silence is the verdict. Your peace unsettles them. Your absence forces them to face themselves. They will seek new supply, trying to fill the void, trying to prove they're fine, but every attempt fails, because you were never just a person, you were a lesson. And when the lesson is betrayed, karma begins, not as punishment from outside, but as an echo within. When they made you doubt yourself, they planted the seed of doubt in their own soul. When they made you feel worthless, they signed a pact with emptiness. And when they betrayed real love, they shut the door on every future chance to receive it. To betray a super empath is not merely cruelty, it is spiritual suicide. Because you are not just the one they hurt, you are the mirror of truth. And when they shatter that mirror, they are left only with the true face they have always feared. That is when karma enters not loudly, not with warning, but as the quiet knowing of the universe, a silence that sees everything. Chapter 2. When the light withdraws. After you leave, they believe they are free. They step into the phase every narcissist repeats in every relationship, seeking new supply to fill the void. But this time, it is different. What they lost was not just someone who loved them, it was the energy that once reflected their very existence. They do not realize that when a super empath withdraws their light, the darkness inside them begins to collapse. At first they act strong. They tell others you were weak, crazy, unable to handle the truth. They rebuild the old image, the charming, confident one who's never wrong. But when night falls, when there is no audience, they begin to hear the echo of themselves, hollow, loud, and repetitive. What once felt like power now feels like addiction. Without you to reflect them, they no longer know who they are. And that is when karma begins its work. Karma does not strike like lightning, it moves silently, through the emptiness they cannot bear. They lose focus, inspiration, the ability to pretend joy. The new people who enter their life, the new supply, cannot recreate the sense of aliveness you once gave them. They begin to compare, then deny, then search for you in others' eyes. But no one can mirror them as perfectly as you did, because you didn't just give them emotion, you gave them existence. And when you withdrew, the truth emerged. Psychology calls this narcissistic collapse the implosion of the false self. When the main source of supply disappears, the entire illusion crumbles. They spiral into identity crisis, sleepless nights, emotional chaos. They might reach out to you not out of love, but out of fear. Fear of facing the emptiness inside the void your light once filled. They'll try familiar tactics, fake apologies, rehearsed vulnerability, phrases like, "I've changed," or "You're the only one who ever understood me." But this time you don't respond. You no longer vibrate on their frequency, and that terrifies them. This is when karma reverses its current. When you remain silent, reactive energy no longer flows toward them, it turns back. They begin to feel what you once felt: confusion, anxiety, isolation, and the agony of being unseen. But unlike you, they lack the depth to learn from the pain. They only know how to run, to blame, to manipulate harder. The more they resist, the faster their own darkness consumes them. Carl Jung once said, "No one can reach the light without passing through the darkness." But the narcissist tries to avoid that path. When you withdraw, they are forced to walk it whether they want to or not. Every lie they ever built collides with truth. Those they once manipulated turn away. They lose status, influence, and control. But the cruelest loss of all is themselves. They begin to feel as if they are dying inside without knowing why, because they are going through what you once endured. Nigredo, the black night of the soul, where every illusion burns to ash. Chapter 3. The Mirror of Karma. Karma does not arrive as punishment, but as a chain of circumstances that precisely repeat what they once did to others. The person they trusted turns away. The person they sought to control pushes back. The person they demeaned now stands above them. No one is getting even. Energy is simply returning to its source. Every lie, every manipulation, every betrayal is now reflected back into their life, as if the universe were replaying the old film, so they are forced to watch themselves as the villain. From here, karma unfolds on 3 levels. Level 1, social karma. What was hidden begins to leak. Those who once believed them gradually notice the contradictions. Their half-true stories are punctured by plain facts. No exposure is required, only time. When you step out of the spiral, you remove the one thing that sustained their image, your reactive energy. Without it, their mask dries and cracks. They lose charm, lose their audience, lose the feeling of being revered. Every word they speak begins to smell of pretense. Every smile looks strained. Level 2, inner karma. This is the real consequence. With no one left to blame, they must hear their own voice, the one they used you to silence. The darkness within has nowhere to hide. Buried memories, guilt, the moments they humiliated others all surge up like unending nightmares. They try to fill it with work, sex, money, or substances, but nothing can fill the hole inside. They begin to live split, denying and panicking at once, addicted to validation, yet terrified of being truly seen. The body starts to react: headaches, insomnia, anxiety, obsessions. Psychology calls this somatization. When the soul has ached too long, the body begins to carry the illness. Level 3, soul karma. This is the part the mind cannot pass, but your heart knows. When someone betrays true love, they sever themselves from the current of life. It's not God punishing them, their own energy contracts. They lose the capacity to feel pure joy. Music no longer rings in their chest. Nature can no longer touch them. What once made them feel powerful becomes meaningless. They grow afraid of silence, afraid to be alone, afraid of their own face in the mirror. This is the sign of a soul cut off from the light spiritual exile. Meanwhile, you, the one deceived, begin to receive everything back in another form, not by vengeance, but by resurrection. You start to feel peace, sleep deeper, laugh more genuinely, speak less yet with more meaning. You return to nature, to art, to stillness. You no longer need to be understood, because you understand yourself. Each day your energy becomes clearer, lighter. Others feel it, even when you say nothing. Then one day you see them through a post, a message, or a passing glance, and you notice something strange. There is no life in their eyes. Though they try to look successful, with a new partner or new projects, a certain withering clings to them. You are no longer angry, no longer impatient for justice. You feel pity, because you know karma has begun teaching them the lesson you could not. Karma does not come to avenge, it comes to balance. And in that balance, you realize you never lost. You simply left the battlefield and let the universe restore order. They will meet themselves again, the parts they denied, the parts they once threw onto you. They will love someone and be betrayed in the very way they once betrayed. They will try to manipulate, but this time no one reacts, and the silence of the world becomes the final verdict. This is the point of no return when the persona, the social mask, begins to collapse. Carl Jung wrote, "When the persona falls, the shadow rises to take command. For the narcissist, this is the flood of the darkness they spent years forcing down. All the repressed emotions, shame, inferiority, fear, helplessness, surge upward with no outlet. They begin to self-destruct in many forms: addiction, chaotic relationships, manipulating the very people they need most. They become an enemy to themselves, a soul trapped in an inner war no side can win." When karma reaches the level of the soul, collapse is no longer an emotion. It is the draining of life force. Everything they once used to feel powerful stops working. Others' attention, money, sex, success all ring hollow. Each attempt to prove they are fine is met by life arranging a scene that exposes the pretense. They lose luck, support, the ability to steer reality. And the most terrible loss, they can no longer connect to their own soul. Some call this the dark night of the soul. But for the narcissist, it is not a path to rebirth, it is a path to disintegration. Rebirth requires humility. They have none. Instead of yielding to learn, they resist. They project blame outward onto the world, onto you, onto bad fortune. The more they resist, the deeper they sink. Everything in them, feelings, words, intentions, begins to counter karma. They speak to be loved, but others hear manipulation. They smile to seem okay, but their eyes betray fear. When no one believes them, they stop believing themselves. At this point, karma is no longer a set of events, but a state of being. They live inside the energy they once sowed: suspicion, isolation, shame. Everywhere they go, they encounter versions of themselves, selfish, cold, false. The whole world now mirrors the image they try to escape. This is what Jung called enantiodromia, when anything pushed to its extreme reverses into its opposite. They lived to prove strength. Now they embody weakness. They craved control. Now life controls them. They betrayed the light. Now the light refuses them. And in that silence, when every role disintegrates, only one true moment remains: facing themselves. There is no one left to blame, no one to manipulate, no applause loud enough to drown the emptiness inside. This is the deepest karma, the karma of late recognition. The realization that the one they betrayed was not you, but the best part of themselves. Chapter 4. The universe's law of return and the empath's justice. There is an order deeper than any court or punishment. Humans can devise a law unwritten, etched instead into every breath, every heartbeat, every bond between souls. The universe's law of return. It does not heed pleading, tears, or excuses. It simply does its work, bringing every energy back to its rightful place. Every action, thought, and feeling carries a frequency. When you emit a frequency, the universe answers with energy of the same quality. The empath knows this intuitively. The narcissist learns it through pain. While you sent out true love, they sent out deceit. While you offered trust, they sowed betrayal. Thus, what you lost was only an illusion, and what they lost was the capacity to live in the light. Carl Jung said, "What is denied in the unconscious will shape your life." When someone betrays love, they do more than harm another. They create a fracture in the soul through which negative energy pours. They believe they are free, yet they become enslaved by the inner shadow. From that moment, the law of return begins to operate not as revenge, but as nature's stern healing process. On the surface, they may still smile, perform happiness, and wear immaculate roles. But deep in the field of energy, imbalance spreads like a crack in a mirror. Everything they once manipulated, seized, or constructed begins to split. The universe does not allow anyone to take energy without returning it in kind. If they siphoned your light to uphold an illusion of power, that light will find its way home, and when it does, their darkness is exposed completely. When the law of return moves, you need do nothing. Stand steady in your light. The cycle completes itself. The liar becomes surrounded by lies. The betrayer is betrayed. The exploiter is exploited. Not because you cursed them, but because energy seeks equilibrium. And as you stop fighting and stop seeking justice outside, you step out of the cycle. You are no longer victim or even survivor. You become the one who understands the law. The law of return weighs intentions as well as actions. If you love with the intent to heal, you are healed. If you harm with the intent to control, you become controlled by that very energy. Through pain, the empath learns discernment. They no longer love to prove anything, but love like light naturally shining. They no longer react, they choose. They are no longer pulled into others' karma. They become the still point where karma stops. Then you grasp a deeper truth. True justice isn't an outcome, it is awakening. When you are awake, no one can harm you. When you hold your light, darkness has no power. When you understand the law of return, you stop fearing loss because everything coheres to its own frequency. True love returns, falsehood decays, and the clear energy you send becomes a shelter over your life. The universe is not hurried. It does not forget. It simply waits until your energy is clean enough to deliver what is yours. So if you ask, will they face consequences? The answer is, they already are. Karma doesn't always look like catastrophe. Sometimes it looks like emptiness, the inability to feel alive, the fear of the very light they rejected. The empath's justice is not found in another's collapse, but in their own resurrection. When you heal, you not only save yourself, you close a karmic loop. When you choose peace over payback, the universe uses that energy to restore order. The narcissist learns through pain. You learn through clarity. They descend because they lose energy. You rise because you reclaim your soul. At some point you realize, justice doesn't come to you, you become justice. Your existence, after all, is the answer. Every word they once used to make you doubt yourself now testifies against them. Every tear you shed becomes healing energy for you and for those who will walk this path after you. One day they will remember you, not out of love, but in the face of their own emptiness. They will realize no one ever loved them as you did, not because you were weak, but because you saw them beyond what they were. That knowledge wounds more than any penalty. Understanding they betrayed their last chance at redemption. And you, looking back, will no longer see an enemy. You will see a lost soul trapped in their own karma. You need not hope they repent. Repentance is a grace reserved for those with enough light left to see. You need only keep walking, because true justice was never outside. It lives in the moment you lift your head, take a deep breath, and know that darkness has no claim on you anymore. That is when karma is complete, not because someone was punished, but because you grew beyond the pain. The universe need not intervene. You are the answer. When the empath stands firm in the light, the betrayer dissolves in their own shadow, and that is justice everlasting. In the end, every spiral returns to its beginning. The narcissist, the one who once believed they could control emotions, distort truth, and escape all consequences, must finally face the most just verdict the universe can deliver, themselves. When there is no one left to manipulate, no light left to mirror, no supply left to consume, they are forced to confront the emptiness they have spent a lifetime running from. No one pushes them off the edge, they are simply pulled back to the place their energy has always belonged. Karma doesn't arrive with an explosion. It comes in a sequence of silences. In the distant eyes of those who once believed them, in the isolation of a room that once echoed with laughter, in the sleepless nights where the face of the one they betrayed returns again and again like a ghostly reminder. Everything they built to escape the truth becomes their prison. And they realize the greatest punishment is not losing someone, but being stripped forever of the ability to love and be loved. As for you, the one who was betrayed, you do not need to witness their downfall to know karma is at work. Because true justice is not revenge, it is awakening. When you stop wishing for their remorse, when you no longer wait for an apology, when you choose silence and peace, you step out of the karmic loop. You are no longer a reaction in their story. You become the author of your own. Carl Jung once said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." You have done exactly that. You have seen the darkness not to be consumed by it, but to understand it. You have withdrawn your light from unworthy hands and turned it toward your own path. And that is the moment the universe nods in recognition. Because in the end, karma is not retaliation, it is restoration. The betrayer will reap what they have sown. The empath will receive what they deserve. And the simplest, yet most profound truth is this: you do not need to demand justice. You are justice. For when your light stands still, darkness can do nothing but dissolve on its own. And that is the day karma returns not to destroy, but to cleanse. Not to avenge, but to restore order. Not to prove you were right, but to prove that real love in the end always wins.